Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tark Talks, the news show where, you know what, screw it. How many of these do I even do a year now? 3, 4, whatever. You guys all know I'm late, so you know what? Alright, today we're canceling people. Who we canceling? Good question. Streamers, too many heated gamer moments. Cancelled. The royal family, apparently racist. You know what? Cancelled. Although there is a get out of jail free card on this one, I will consider a redemption arc if the queen releases her elusive sex tape, pounding the royal poo. Lactose intolerant people, you guys don't even exist because milk doesn't exist. Cancelled. Women. Now, we've got a lot to cover this month, but the vast majority of this program is made of very small stories this time. So let's start by lumping a lot of them together and look at all the events that recently occurred and the 10,000 games that were announced and shown off. So, for the state of play, it happened, I think. To be honest, it was hard to tell you even seen anything by the time it ended. They announced a Final Fantasy VII Remastered DLC focused on Yuffie, and I mean, it looks cool, but it's PlayStation 5 only for now.
And on that note...
Now, normally I don't mind missing DLC, but I won't lie. I worry that they're gonna make it integral to the plot of Final Fantasy VII Remaster Part 2, like any number of Odd Kingdom Hearts spin-offs. Of course, only time's gonna tell on that one. Oddworld Soulstorm got a release date of April 6th. That's what I'm looking forward to. I probably won't cover it here, however. Kenna Bridge of Spirits, after suffering a delay, has a new story and gameplay trailer, and I'm really looking forward to this game. And there was like a couple more games shown off, but like nothing I'm really feeling too strong yet. At least nothing I really want to talk about here. The Nintendo Direct fared a little better, but still not exactly amazing. My biggest takeaway was easily Project Triangle Strategy. One look at the game and you know who made it. This is very clearly the Octopath engine, only a little bit more refined it seems. It's looking like the game is going to be heavily inspired by Final Fantasy Tactics, both in its political story and its gameplay. Though the gameplay also seems to borrow ideas from the Divinity Original Sin games, and I'm all there for it. Only in saying this and knowing the studio's previous games, I have my reservations. To say the least, this studio usually has very deep flaws in their writing, either with characters and the parties not getting their due, or the pace and structure completely falling apart before the end. I do have high hopes, but I'm also pretty darn skeptical. In the same event, Pyra and Mythra were announced for Smash Bros, and this is just coming in now, if I'm hearing this right. We have exclusive footage to this station, the live reaction from Tark's Gauntlet to this reveal. So let's take a look.
I got an invitation to join Smash.
Oh, Pyra's in Smash. Skyward Sword HD is a thing. It's full price. I'm probably gonna get it anyway. I suspect now that the controls are actually going to be decent, it might be worth the full price, unlike the first time I bought it, which, for the record, was for my then girlfriend, now wife. This was the first gift I ever bought for her, and she seemed happy, so maybe it was worth it? Ninja Gaiden Trilogy was announced for a Trio Pack remaster. I'm kind of excited for that. I only ever played Razor's Edge on the Wii U, and I mostly enjoyed it. I would like to get this on Switch, but I also have concerns that they'll somehow make it run worse than Razor's Edge did on Wii U, so maybe I'll be looking for another system for that one. I am also looking forward to the Legend of Mana remaster, strictly because I've never actually played it before and the sprite and location art looks really nice. A huge surprise as well, 2 Famicom Detective Club games. These were niche visual novels from the Famicom era, and they're being completely remade and re-released in the West. This isn't anything I really know much about, but I'm really intrigued by it. The last big thing that really caught my attention was World's End Club, a new game from the same creative minds behind the Danganronpa and Zero Escape trilogy series. And I mean, with the amount of child murder that we've been told to expect, I guess that goes without saying. Given this was initially being developed for the Apple Arcade, I do wonder how big the scope of the game is. It does seem to be on the shorter side of things for them, at about 20 hours, but I can definitely use some shorter games these days. Plus, I've consistently enjoyed what I've played from this team before. But since we're on the topic of the Apple Arcade, let's talk about something else going on there. Let's talk about Fantasian. Fantasian is the latest game from Mistwalker Studios, the studio made by famed Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi after he parted ways with Square Enix many years back. This is the studio that brought us niche hits such as Lost Odyssey and The Last Story, two games I care for rather deeply and wished much greater things for. But Fantasian, like all Mistwalker games before it, thanks to limited marketing or poor platform choice, could fall by the wayside. Fantasian is releasing, at least for now, exclusively to the Apple Arcade.
And on that note...
This just sucks. There's no other way around it, because this game actually looks really neat. So much of it looks fresh and inventive, which I mean, could go either way when it comes to the fun factor, but it's a game I'd definitely be willing to try. Easily the most special thing about it, however, is its visual style. Many of the game zones were designed to look like miniatures or dioramas, a task they managed to achieve by actually constructing the zones with miniatures and dioramas. The way it's all put together reminds me of the old matte-painted PlayStation 1 backgrounds, which I absolutely love. But this has the ability to properly shift camera angles and retain that sort of appearance. What Octopath done for old 16-bit RPGs, bringing their style to the new generation with new advancements, Fantasian is kind of doing for the PlayStation 1 generation, and it just speaks to me. But unfortunately, it's speaking to me in a language that I can't speak back to it in. It's going to suck to miss this as well, as this may be the last game Nobuo Uematsu ever works on in its entirety. His retirement is fast approaching, and concerns over his health are mounting. Which brings me to a bittersweet realization. A lot of the old guard and the progenitors we've come to love and respect throughout the years are getting rather up there. We simply don't have much time left with these guys. Over the next few years, I think we're going to see a lot of them heading into retirement, and while I'm happy to see them move on and grateful for all they've given us, the landscape just won't be the same without them. Hopefully, Fantasian gets a port later, just as World's End Club is. As Nobuo Uematsu's potential swan song, and as a passion project for Sakaguchi and what may be one of his last titles too, I really don't want to have to miss it. The annual Tales of event just passed in Japan, and while there was very little of note or very much fanfare, we did get a new trailer for Tales of Arise, and man, is it looking good. The game is looking as slick as ever, and it appears there's going to be a lot more focus on cinematic and action set pieces than before, which normally wouldn't be that exciting to me, but since they mostly dropped overworlds at this point, this should be a good way to fill in a lot of the spaces in between. The trailer also showcased the English voice cast for the game, which so far is sounding pretty good, and it closed with the promise of more details this spring, so more details very soon. Also, a surprise announcement for White Day 2, The Flower That Tell Lies. While a rather frustrating experience, White Day: A Labyrinth Named School is a cult Korean horror hit that holds a special place in my heart now, and a substantial place in cult survival horror gaming. I really didn't think after so many years the first game would get officially localized, so it's double shocking to me now that it's getting a full-on sequel, but I'm all there for it. We got new details on the Neptunia Senran Kagura crossover titled Senran Nin Nin Ninja Tyson Neptune Shoujo Tachi no Kyoin. I probably butchered that. It's looking like this will play more akin to a Senran Kagura title than a Neptunia one, at least unless we consider Neptunia spin-offs like Neptunia U, in which case that pretty much just used Senran Kagura Tamsoft style combat anyway. Story-wise, it seems like it's going to use a similar story to many crossover fighting games that came before it. The same sort of generic story where a portal, cataclysmic event, or shadowy bad guy with mystical powers transfers different characters across universes or into pocket dimensions to take part in a competition. In this case, a ninja competition. I'm not expecting much from this game to be honest, but I do expect at least traditional Senran Kagura action. That said, despite the game being a few nins short of a perfect title, I do think there's reasons to be skeptical. Not only is Senran Kagura series creator Kenichiro Takaki completely uninvolved, but with the way things have been going on certain platforms, we can likely expect some of the more provocative elements to be removed or toned down. And while that may be cause for celebration for some folks, it's gonna be a huge source of controversy for series fans come release time, and something that would ultimately hurt the series sales. However, this is something I don't want to entertain too much speculation on yet. It could, for all I know, turn out just fine. I'm just gonna have to keep my eyes and ears open until I know more. But that's enough of the game stumping for now. It's kind of scary to consider, but there is more. After a year where gaming felt like it was in a little bit of a drought, it seems things are in full swing again. And there's probably a Mario Golf joke in there somewhere, but let's turn to another story now. Despite this next story being the bad kind of ass, we can still spin this to be somewhat of a celebration of gaming, I hope. So this is a tale as old as time, or at least as old as gaming itself, when video games were first invented in 1992 with the release of Mortal Kombat. Once again, violent video games are under attack. As it would appear, a lawmaker, or should I say a lawmaker, in Chicago woke up one morning and chose violence. That is, he chose a war on violence in video games.
You think you're the first?
Or to be more specific, he's seeking a war on Grand Theft Auto, because, you know, it was such a good idea the first 50 times people tried it. Unlike certain states instituting a violent video game tax, this lawmaker is going back to more archaic methods and seeking a full-on ban for them in response to a rise in the rates of carjackings in Chicago. And giving credit where credit's due, I mean, shooting people in Call of Duty did in fact teach me how to jack a car and made me actionable beyond my control to do it on more than one occasion, but surely I'm the outlier here. Really, this is gonna go like so many more attempts before it. There won't be a ban, and even if they get it kind of far along, there's going to be such a backlash against it that the whole thing's ultimately going to be dropped. Now, today's Tarks Tidbits is going to be a bit smaller than usual. Typically in this section, I would cover some of the trailers and small stories, but there were so many of them that I kind of used them as the leading story this time. So let's jump right ahead and look at some of the games that are releasing soon, right ahead that you might be interested in. On March 16th, we have the Switch release of Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, as well as the rather unexpected re-release of Stubbs the Zombie Rebel Without a Pulse. Yakuza 6 Song of Life hits PC on the 25th, so y'all get them tissues at the ready. Balan Wonderland officially launches on the 26th. This might be worth looking at if they listened to the demo feedback, but if not, it's gonna be a pass. Monster Hunter Rise is releasing the same day on Switch. Ports to other platforms will be coming later. A bunch of Kingdom Hearts content is coming to the PC on the 30th, and moving into April, we have Outriders on the 1st, previously mentioned Oddworld Soulstorm on the 6th, Trails of Cold Steel 4 is getting its Switch port on April 9th, Saga Frontier Remastered is coming out on the 15th for the PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC, the much anticipated Nier Replicant is coming out on April 23rd, and Death End Request is coming to the Switch on the 27th. So there's definitely a lot coming out in the next couple months. For my video recommendation this month, I want to plug A Look at Klonoa Door to Phantomile by Giluria? I've never actually gotten how to pronounce your name. Well, mostly a streamer, he's taking a crack at this whole YouTube thing and he's starting his trip on the right foot. Fair warning though, his video is definitely for Klonoa fans. If you're looking to avoid spoilers, then maybe hang back on this video until you get the chance to play the game for yourself. But if all you want to do is hear fan talk to and for the fans, this is the video for you. And lastly, before we get out of this section, I just want to say one last public thanks to everybody who dropped in for the birthday stream. I had a lot of fun talking to you all, playing some retro games I haven't got to in a while, and inviting a bunch of you to the Discord voice chat. It's been 2.5 years since I streamed last, and everything about the process on the back end has changed dramatically, so I had no idea if it was even gonna work. There was a lot of anxiety going on just hitting that start stream button, but you guys made me feel very comfortable, and your kind words did not fall on deaf ears. During the stream, I also set up a donation bar to help partially fund buying a new tablet. See, the thing is, most of the script writing I do at my normal full-time job on my breaks. However, my last tablet, which was junk when I bought it, decided finally it couldn't even open Google Docs anymore. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been pen and padding it, and things haven't been coming out, to my eyes and ears at least, quite as good. It's just not a method very conducive to script writing for me, and I was losing a lot of productivity as a result of it. Well, despite the donation bar not updating as intended while I was on stream, I found out when the stream ended that we actually hit the goal I set. Not being one to just take the money and run, I went out the very next day and got myself a Chromebook. So now I can finally write at work again. See, I'm doing it now, and I have all of you to thank for this. One of you also fronted the money for a physical copy of To the Moon from Limited Run Games, a game I've been interested in for quite some time and one I can't wait to get to. I'm not sure if you want your name out there publicly, but to you in particular, a very special thank you. I did not forget to place the order. So, I don't think we've talked Kiseki news yet at all today, and that can't be right. This is a Tark Talk. So let's look now at what Falcom has planned for us. Let's start with the unexpected story. Trails of Cold Steel is getting adapted into an anime. And I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Adapting an anime into an anime, what could go wrong? Well, if it turns out like the last Kiseki adaptation, quite a bit. And if it turns out better than that, still quite a bit. From what I understand, this new anime will take place during the events of Cold Steel 1, but it doesn't seem like we'll be following Class 7, which in my opinion is definitely for the best. The full extent of Class 7's position in the war and everything that went into the creation of Class 7 would be entirely too much to adapt for what will likely only be a 12-episode run, and that's 12 if we're lucky. Personally, I would love to just see a story of some NPC family or something and how the changing political climate is affecting their lives. Cold Steel 1 had a great thing going on with its focus on different social classes and ranks, and how various divisions were seeking to strengthen or weaken the entire social structure. However, that's something we always seen as outsiders looking in, or something we got periodic updates on as class members visited or told stories of their family life. I would love to see it actually unfolding in real time. Something tells me, however, that my fantasy idea wouldn't exactly align with how best to market and expand the game series audience, so I highly doubt we're going to go quite so indie with the storytelling. Still, however, I'm on board and I'm very interested to see where this goes. Crossing my fingers, it's not a total dumpster fire. Now let's take a quick look at the Kuro no Kiseki battle system. I reported a few months ago that Kiseki was looking to go more action-oriented with the newest installments, and while I stated that I had faith Falcom would make it work, I absolutely do not want to see the series lose its turn-based identity. Thankfully, the new details we got on the battle system come with some assurance. As it appears, the new real-time action will primarily only be useful in smaller battle scenarios. During any larger, more important, or dramatic encounters, you'll be able to switch back to turn-based on the fly. This actually seems like a great compromise and an awesome approach to modernizing the combat while not losing what makes it so great. Also, a great way to get new players interested in the series. Of course, until I try it on my own, I don't know for certain how I'll feel, but I can see how it might cut down on some tedium. I am curious though if there's still going to be a fast forward function during combat, and if so, how unwieldy is it going to be? It is hard to tell looking at this how much depth either battle mode will contain, or if the turn-based part will still fully retain the combat from the previous entries. But at this point, I can see only one thing that makes me a little sad. One of the things I most liked strategizing for in combat that made each encounter at least a little bit different were the turn effects. Typically, you could see them several turns in advance, and if you play your cards right, you can rearrange turn orders to your benefit, either giving yourself a great buff or avoiding something useful falling into the enemy's hands. Maybe I just missed it in the footage, or we simply haven't seen enough yet, but it looks like the turn order bar or the time bar is located up here now, and you can only see the next two effects. And if that's the case, if it's exactly what it looks like, then that means this aspect of combat may end up being reduced so much that it is no longer something you can adequately strategize for. But it might not be how it looks, who knows. What I can say is that I at least now have more optimism for the direction they're taking the combat than I did before, but I do still have a lot of questions. I'm sure we'll be getting plenty more details soon, so consider me cautiously optimistic at this point. And for the last story of the day, and a good reason to have a drink, let's talk about Japan Studio. Over the past few months, we've seen high-level talents leaving the famed and cherished Japan Studio. Japan Studio, famous for games like Gravity Rush, Patapon, work on The Last Guardian, Demon Souls, and much, much more. All these departures was really putting the writing on the wall. However, now it's official. It is set in stone. Through something of a restructuring process that more or less completely dissolves the company, Sony has let go the vast majority of teams and employees at Japan Studio, choosing to keep only the Astrobot team. Suffice to say the least, this kind of sucks, but I get it. For the most part, over the last 2 generations, Japan Studio has seemed to have a tough time making commercially profitable games. This isn't to say that they've been releasing bad games, but it really just feels like a run of poor timing and poor marketing. After so many years of performance like this, I can see how it's the financially smart decision to shrink and dissolve the company. However, I'm still gonna try to find the silver lining here. Many of the talent that left Japan Studio leading up to this have sought gainful employment elsewhere, and their influence in gaming is still going to continue. Some of the others who have left even sought to open their own studios where they can have and maintain even greater creative control. Though future budgets for their games may be smaller, I'm definitely looking forward to what they create with less people looking over their shoulder trying to control their every move. So while Japan Studio falls, more than one studio is set to rise from its ashes. And who knows? they might just bring the fire again. So here's me looking to the future with whatever little bit of optimism I can muster up. And that's all for today, guys. I tried my best to find the silver linings where I could, but not all the news is good. But if you guys liked this video or found it entertaining or useful at all, you know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, and share the video if you can. Links to all of my socials and my Patreon support page are in the description below. And as always, folks, thanks for watching. Women. Oh my god, where do I even start with this one? It's literally the entire rest of this notebook. And don't worry, the men are next. So let's just start at the beginning then. Number 1, you guys just do not know how to